Hey, Cleaning Nation, Mike Campion here with Lindsay Bjorklund. We are doing our weekly AMA, Ask Mike Anything. Members of you guys, Cleaning Nation, owners of cleaning companies, let us know what you're struggling with, how we can help. We answer them here on air. Let's get the party started. Lindsay, who's first?
All right. First up, we got Allison Renee posted in the Facebook group. She asked, how do you deal with clients getting mad because of the turnover rate in new faces? I try to always have one new face out of a three-man crew, but the clients still complain. It's so frustrating. She said, I don't have the same barista at Starbucks making my coffee every day. I just thought that
Yeah,
was
it would
funny.
be weird to go into McDonald's and be like, "Where's Lindsay? I know Steve can't make my Big Mac. Big Mac. I need Lindsay." So that's a great question. I actually like it because most of the people, the question would be, or the presupposition is our, a lot of probably audience that are listening now on the residential side take it as a point of pride to be like, we always have the same cleaners. But I don't like that because you're really setting yourself up for failure. Like I can't control myself all the time. God forbid other humans. So I think it's a little foolhardy to say we guarantee the same cleaner. Like how? Like this, you guarantee this person will never get sick or quit or get pregnant or move or not show up or whatever the case. Or maybe you need to let them go because they're not doing a great job. But you've promised, like it's a bad. Let's just not make promises we can't really keep, right? So I like who we dealing with. Allison coming from a point of, hey, we're gonna have new cleaners. So that said, most of the time it's just poor expectations set at the beginning. And we can fix that at the beginning. If not, we'll just have to reset them now, which isn't quite as good. So the conversation is the same, but at the beginning, you just have to move them from, because really what they're saying is not that I only want Lindsay, and they probably haven't thought it through this carefully, but what they're really thinking and feeling is I'm comfortable with Lindsay and I don't trust other people, not because they're inherently bad. I know Lindsay and I trust Lindsay, so I want her. And it's okay when it's not great when Lindsay's a cleaner. It's really not great when Lindsay's the owner, right? I have to have you have to do it, you have to do it. And then now we don't have a business, we have a job and we're kind of slaves to these people. So when you start, you just have to help them ideally in the sales process. But who am I talking to again? Allison, you can do this now is just reset the boundaries. So if you're doing it ideally at the beginning of the relationship, so say Lindsay and I were going to date and she wanted kids and I didn't, or vice versa, that's fine. But let's just set expectations at the beginning. Hey, I'd like to have kids. And I go, well, Lindsay's like, I don't want that. Cool. Maybe we should just be friends. Like maybe this will just be that kind of relationship. Nothing wrong with that. Lindsay's not going to be angry with me. But if we kind of don't bring it up and Lindsay just assumes she wants kids and I assume I don't, 3 years into the relationship, she makes a proclamation, I want 9 kids, and I make the problem I'm going to have none. There's going to be some hard feelings. Like we got to reset that relationship. So really all that needs to look like is, hey, Lindsay, we know a lot of people feel more comfortable with the same person. And you just explain what I did. And I promise you, if I had robots that could for sure do what I told them to do every time, I'd promise you that. But I don't. I've got cleaners that are human beings with their own agendas and lives. And, there's nothing shameful about cleaner turnover. It's not ideal, but again, you could she made a perfect example, Allison. Like you go to the Starbucks and Lindsay quit. You're not like this stupid Starbucks. You're just like, Lindsay must have found a better gig. I guess Bob will make coffee today and that'll just be fine. Right. So we just have to explain to them, like anyone that tells you, like if you have the owner, and I guess even the owner, they're going to get sick. They might, like, owners change less frequently than cleaners, but more than zero, right? So we just have to kind of set the stage that it's an unrealistic request and people can promise that, but they're not probably being honest with you, right? Like same thing when we set up the cleaning. I like setting expectations with Lindsay. Our goal is not for everything to be perfect, because if you stick with us long enough, we're going to make a mistake. Obviously, everyone will. And if we never made a mistake, you couldn't afford us, right? So, or I'm lying to you. So the reality is whoever you is going to make a mistake. So our goal is not perfection, because that's not realistic. And if it was realistic, you couldn't afford it anyway. Our goal is for you to come home and go, oh, I think this place looks good. It makes me happy, right? So if you set the frame as everything's going to be perfect all the time, you're guaranteed for failure. And if you set the frame, it's always going to be Lindsay, you're setting yourself up for failure. But if you set the frame as we're going to make mistakes, but overall, when we come home, it's going to be the best day of your week. You're going to love how you feel. Every now and again, we'll make a mistake. You'll let us know. We'll fix it. Easy peasy. So, and the way that we do that is not to have everything on Lindsay's shoulders, where the only way for this to happen is Lindsay's got to show up and do her thing and feel good and blah, 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 blah. We've got a set of systems and processes, just like McDonald's, just like Starbucks, that make sure you get the result regardless of who's doing that. So, all that to say, again, it's a little easier to set in the sales process, set those boundaries or set that expectations, but totally reasonable to set now. And again, the guy's got to be crazy. Like, nope, that guy's got to be here. Like, how can I possibly? Are you advocating for slave labor, like where I own them now and they must go where I tell them? Even slaves don't do what you want, I would assume sometimes. So it's just a ridiculous request when you really think about it more than, and it's okay for someone to go, I like Lindsay and I prefer her, and I get as long as they do a good job, whoever's fine. But just so you know, I like Lindsay, and I'm like, I might try and have Lindsay come more often. There's nothing wrong with that. But when it starts to get to be demanding that I have another human being do something for an undetermined amount of time, I think it's a bit unreasonable. So all that to say, Allison, I love that you're coming from the place of, I know we're going to have different people. How do I communicate it? And hopefully we're giving you some tools there. Anything I missed, Lindsay, or anything you want to add?
Only thing I would add is that, yeah, I feel like every time we teach this to our clients, especially, and they get a little nervous about it, maybe they've had a client for a long time, when they come back, they say, oh, actually, that was like so easy. I was nervous about it or something. And all you're really doing is just reminding your cleaning client that you're human beings, stuff happens, right? That's it.
Right.
And then people are usually like, oh yeah, totally, I get it, it's not a big deal, and then it's over. So just wanted to add that.
I think most of us have a tendency to oversell. We're going to be perfect. We're going to be great. We do everything. We don't cut corners. We clean, and we're the best in the world. And the problem is that's what all your competitors are doing. So you all sound like you're full of poo, you know? But when you just come and do the opposite and go, hey, Lindsay, I promise you, if you stick with me long enough, I will make a god dang mistake. Lindsay goes, that guy sounds honest.
Yeah,
And then
right.
when I say things like, but we're going to work hard to make sure you're happy. And when we make a mistake, I'm going to fix it. She goes, well, that's super reasonable. I believe him. And then when the next guy comes in and goes, we're perfect. We never make mistakes. Everything we get is perfect. Like, yeah, Lindsay's like, all of a sudden that guy sounds a little full of crap,
Are
maybe.
you though? Are you perfect?
Yeah, like I don't think
Sounds a
that's
bit
really the
suspect.
truth. So don't hide it. Just feel good. Like, and when you make a mistake, own it. Holy, because we want to argue. Well, that guy didn't. It's not your fault. And blah blah blah. Yeah, we got you. I'd be pissed too. Let's make it right. Anything else you need, girl? Cool. Moving on. All right. Great question, Allison.
Yeah, love it. All right, we're moving on to Amy in the Facebook group. This post got a ton of interest. There was people saying following, and there was a ton of views. So I was like, let's tackle it. She wants to know, Mike, how do you handle walkthroughs when running a remote commercial cleaning company?
That's a great question. So first of all, love the ability to run a remote cleaning company. Second of all, not a big fan of bidding online automatically, right? That's typically where we want to go. Like you come on and you put in your square footage and we just everything. And by the way, the technology is there. You can absolutely, here's the price, here's the thing, here's when they'll come, what's the address. We don't advocate for that at all because once you got that guy's credit card number, you haven't met him or her, you haven't seen them. You don't know if you're walking into a hoarding situation, sociopath, you don't know what's going on, right? Great opportunity for bad reviews and just things to go wrong. We would advocate only taking recurring clients, not one time. And, if an average client's $400 a month, they stay 2 years, I think 25 months, that's a $10,000 client. Like if it takes an hour for someone to go out and spend some time with this person, it's worth 10 grand an hour for crying out loud, right? So all that said, if the owner is in the city, we advocate heavily for working on the business, not in it, right? And technically sales is working in the business. Like if you sell it today, you have to sell it again tomorrow. It's definitely in the business, but it is probably the highest paid in the business activity that you can do, right? Again, if you take an hour to sign up a client that spends $10,000 over the next 2 or 3 years, pretty highly compensated work. So one of the few, actually the only in the business thing I can really see the owner doing. Everything else should be on the business. That said, that was not the question. The question was, what if I want to do it remotely? So again, if you are remote and you physically can't go, that's a different kettle of fish. If you're there and you can go, I probably would, but this solution will work either way. I really only see, well, there's three options. One we talked about is try and automate it and everything, but I really don't think that to be a scalable, profitable Surely you can make that work, but just that's not what we found consistently works. So that one I would throw out the window. The second option would be to do a virtual walkthrough, right? For those of you joining us on YouTube, Lindsay and I might want to sit down for this, are not in the same room, not even in the same state. I don't know my geography, but I'm guessing about 1,200 miles away, like not close. And yet here we are making magic. So Zoom, and if I were to need to see the conditions of Lindsay's house to clean it, she could probably pick, she's like, no, please don't do that. We could conduct this call on Zoom via her phone or a laptop, and she could just literally walk me around. So that's a great way to do it. And then on the residential side, you can also pay a salesperson to do that. So my probably in order would be, if you're local and you're doing less than probably 20 or 30 walkthroughs a month, I'd have the owner do it. If you're local or not local, and you're doing more than like 30 walkthroughs a month, that's time to get a salesperson. Not that you couldn't get one before, but that's really when it's time to get a salesperson. And if you're not local, again, you can make the decision if you want to do the walkthroughs on Zoom or if you want to pay a local salesperson or a hybrid, right? Just because if you pay a local salesperson, they're off or they quit or you're between, you can still do the Zoom. So those are your options. Only, I wouldn't say wrong option, but I'd say by far the least profitable and effective option would be to try and automate it. Real quick side note on the commercial side. No one asked that on the commercial side. Everyone knows, like, obviously we're going to be in town. Like, obviously you're going to walk through, like people just get, and the reason they get it is because it's like, that's $3,000 a month or whatever it may be. So we get it. But again, 10 grand of a lifetime value is not nothing, right? Like we look at the $400 a month, like that ain't worth it. And by the way, when you are in person, you have that personal contact, you'll sell more at a higher rate. They'll stay longer. The margins will be better. You can set the expectations, but just like we talked about with the earlier person with setting expectations, how do you do that if it's all automated? You can't. So on the commercial side, everyone gets that it should be in person, but the same thing goes if you'd like to run it remotely. You can pay a cleaner, somebody to go do the measurements and all that and give you the data that you need, like how long will it take to clean. And then you can do the actual sales conversation over the phone. So you can still do that, works remotely as well, but really emphasize if it's a 6-7 figure lifetime value relationship, the owner's probably going to want to have that, not a salesperson. All right. Anything to add, young Lindsay?
I like the young adjective.
I thought you might. I figured I'd throw that in, give you a smile.
I don't have anything to add on that. That was pretty thorough.
Mike Campion here. Do you ever listen to the podcast and go, this is great information, I just wish I could actually get it implemented and I wish I could get some help? Well, we do that. If you would like either myself or my team's help actually coming up with a plan that's specialized to you and your business, because with these podcasts, obviously we have to be very general and we can only go 20 minutes at a time. If you'd like to jump on a call with myself or my team, go to growmycleaningcompany.com/talk. We'll jump on a call. There's no charge. And we'll help you get some absolute clarity around exactly what to do next and how to do it. The reason we don't charge for these calls is the plan that we come up with, people want help implementing that. If that's the case, we're happy to talk about it. And if it's not, that's okay too. We're happy to just help you come up with a plan. So if you want to translate the information you're learning here into an actual plan that can change your life, give us a ring, growmycleaningcompany.com/talk. Love to either myself or have one of our coaches walk you through and actually personalize the content you get here to where you're at with your business. Talk soon.
Actually, your answer, you mentioned a lot of automation there, like when you'd recommend it and when you want it. The next question does deal with automation. I thought it was an interesting question because with the technology these days and AI, there's so many things you can automate. Craig in the Facebook group said, if you could automate only one thing in your cleaning business, what would it be and why? Like, what would be the most important thing that you think should be automated, Mike?
That's a great question. And I'll do you one better, Craig. I'll kind of go over all the things that I would kind of in order automate from worst to best. Give me 1 second because I literally just taught on this yesterday. So I'm like, you know what? I will pull up my list. I usually know it by memory, but just don't want to forget anything. Give me 1 second. Blah, blah, blah.
I will do a song and dance.
Wow, a song. Well, maybe
no, you don't want to hear me sing.
All right. To save everyone, poor Lindsay from having to sing or dance, I'll jump in. So the very first, and we're going to go from like the first thing to and you say automate. For me, I don't really care if it's automated or outsourced or systematized or I just want to make sure I'm not doing it. So I think a lot of people feel like if I just had the right software, just had the right handbook, or like everything can be perfect, then it'll be great. And we do want systems and processes, and software can be helpful. But really, we just want to know that the task is being done right, and it's being done by not the owner, and it's being done at a price that you can afford. So it's not that I'm focusing on automating everything, because again, we can automate that sales process and you can automate the owner out of doing it. But if your close rate on the number of bids that you close drops in half, I don't know if you can really afford that, right? So you could automate it, but it would make sense to have a skilled person do it. So you'd more outsource that to an employer or somebody else. So if I can, I'll kind of answer what I would get off or what we do get off owners' plates for our clients in order. And I think that'll hopefully answer a little more in depth what he was asking. So the very, 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 very first thing to get out of or automate or systematize out so you're not doing it in your cleaning company is cleaning. That is probably the lowest value thing that you can do because you're completely working your business. It's hard to be running around with a backpack vacuum in the middle of the night on some, janitorial site and feel like an owner, right? It's hard to, be dusting, crouched over Lindsay's toilet in her home and have her look at me, respect me, or treat me, or feel like I'm the owner when I'm just doing that. So there's no shame in that. It's honest work. Like there's nothing wrong with cleaning, obviously, but that would be the first thing we would automate out. And the big things that stand in people's ways are systems. Like the systems I have are so painful or so ineffective. It's just their owners like, forget it. It'd just be easier to clean with the two crappy people I have than do this. So they don't have the right systems. And then they tell themselves lies, right? Instead of just saying, this is too hard, I give up, which is kind of, I think people feel a little ashamed around it. They'll say stuff, well, I actually like cleaning, or I actually am better at this way. And so don't tell yourself lies. If you know that you don't want to be cleaning, let's get you out of cleaning. So, and all the time, not just, oh, I'm off the schedule. I only go in when there's an emergency. Well, it's a cleaning business. There could be emergency 2-3 times a week, right? So completely out of cleaning would be number one. The second thing would be, and again, the way we do this for our clients, we just do it for you, set up a hiring funnel. So you've got more people coming in and blah, it's a whole system. So set up a system for you or call us and we'll set it up for you. The second thing would be stop real-time communication, like reactive. Like I get text, I get called, I get email, like I got to do everything. Create a system. It's usually clients, prospects, employees, vendors. It's really it. So you can kind of put those all off to like employees. You're like, we're going to, communicate through Swept or House Call Pro or Slack or whatever the case may be. Prospects, we're going to have them start with the answering service, and the answering service can like kind of put them to the salesperson or wherever they should go. Customers, maybe whatever platform you've got to communicate with them. So the good thing is, for all of those, the only one that's really time sensitive is residential prospects, right? Speed to lead on residential prospects, really important. Commercial prospects, if they call you right now, you can call back tomorrow. It's fine. They're not going to buy anything in the next 2 hours. Residential prospects, they will. Your customers, they might think it's an emergency. You have to call now, but it's typically not. And if they're angry, it's actually probably better if you do call tomorrow, because what was really fired up yesterday by the time and again, not saying a week from never, but within 24 hours. So the next thing you want to eliminate or downgrade or downplay is interruptions, right? And you just do that by telling everybody how you would like them to communicate. And you just check that once a day. And that's it. And you just say, I'll get back to you. And again, if someone leaves you a message at noon, you get back to it at 4, and every day at 4, that's when you do it. That's super reasonable. So number one would be get out of cleaning. Number two is just getting out of the constant, however you have it, DMs or Facebook or Instagram or text or email, bunch that all into one. Next thing would be the schedule. Is usually what people get freaked out about. Won't even get into that because a lot of, especially in the residential, oh, I got to do it. No one knows it like me. We do it for all our clients. It's no big deal. I promise you. It's systematizable. You can hire somebody else. Next would be like buying supplies, probably then payroll and accounting. But those are the big ones, kind of in the biggest to the littlest. So if you do those in order, you do all those things I just mentioned. There's really 5 or 10 hours a week of work to be done, and you can be wildly profitable. All right. I think I've given 2 long answers. Let's see if we can sneak in one short one.
All right. Derek in the Facebook group, he said, this is a commercial question. What are some, can't talk. What are some out of the ordinary markets to corner facility wise, other than the usual? Maybe facility types people often forget about or overlook.
Wow. Well, if I may, I'm going to kind of reframe that because, well, I don't know that we want to get the weird ones. Like the common ones are common for a reason. So like when I had my commercial cleaning company, we had a mortuary. There was, I don't know how many were in town, but like I wouldn't build a business on that. Like it was a fine client. So I could bowling alleys. Like we could come up with a bunch of weird ones, but like why? Like how many are there? Is that so if I may, so there's two to answer the question that was asked, but let me give what I think is a little bit better. Some of the bigger niches in commercial cleaning that I would go after. And all these have strengths and weaknesses. So like for our clients on the residential, there are an easy button, like here's the one, just do this. For commercial, I'll give the big list and I'll pick a couple and just give the strengths and weaknesses so you can kind of understand like, okay, it's not like there's just the right answer. But big ones would be well, first of all, offices are not a niche. A lot of people are like, I want offices. Well, that's not a niche. Niches share commonality, right? You can speak languages, but you like for a car dealership, they've got their own language. For doctors, they've got their own language. Everyone's got their own language. Office people don't have their own. Lawyers have their own language, right? People in the offices could be niches. So an office isn't a niche. Commercial's not a niche. When people say, "What's your niche?" Like commercial, I'm like, it's not a niche. It's an ocean. So property managers are great. Medical could be great, but even medical is not a niche. Like within that, a niche would be a hospitals or urgent cares or surgery centers or dentists or family practice or whatever. Restaurants could be a niche. Gyms could be a niche. They're very similar. Government could be a niche. Car dealerships, schools, private, public, universities, all of it. Warehouses, manufacturing, apartment complexes. We would only encourage you to do the common areas, not to move out. Churches, assisted living. Those are the bigger niches that we see our people work with, and those are kind of the ones I would chase. And I'll pick a couple just to help you understand, like, what's the difference? Like restaurants and gyms, I put those together. The good news about them is they have lots and lots of pain, right? They have a problem to be solved. They can be a little cheap, but like cheap and like I don't want to pay too much, but it's not going to be a small account because restaurants and gyms are typically 6 or 7 days a week, weird hours like midnight, 2 a.m, all that. And and they're dirty. So all that headache equals pain. So some people are like, I don't want to do restaurants and gym. Totally fine. But the people that specialize in them, you want an easier one to get some clients, and they're all 3, 4, 5 grand a month. Like, I mean, unless it's a real freestanding restaurant, a real gym, not like a little thing. So that would be an example of one, like pros and cons. Cons would be dirty, difficult hours. Pros are because there's problems, real problems to solve. They're motivated and they're probably unhappy and they're a little easier to get. I'll do one or two more. Property manager is a perfect example. Those are great because one property manager might control millions of square feet, depending on how big the city is, and hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in cleaning, right? So you can kind of get one and get the other. So that's a pro, right? One relationship can be worth millions of dollars. Con is, well, you're not the only one that knows this. Other people know that, right? So it take a while to build a relationship, right? They really go over trust and all that. I'll go government for the last one. Government's great because there's, sadly, depending on how you feel with the government, almost unlimited money. And they literally just print it. So that's a good thing. But the cons are, it's a lot of reading contracts and kind of rules and regulations that may or may not make sense or feel good or whatever. So you kind of are almost more like as much of a lawyer / administrator than you are a cleaner. And everyone thinks it's bad pricing. It's not always bad pricing. And even terms, sometimes you can get them, different government people have credit card limits that they can pay with. So there's different weaknesses and strengths to each. All right. I feel like I've ranted enough. That's a good one. Guys, gals, hopefully that was helpful. If you'd like to participate, you can join our Facebook group for free. Just Grow My Cleaning Company Facebook. There's a podcast for all this. If you're on the YouTube channel, if you're on the podcast, there's a YouTube channel with all this, Instagram. But most importantly, if you need some help and you're like, that was good generally, but I'm sick of you just talking to me all this. I'd like you to do some of these things for us. Like, can I just give you money to do it? That is what our company does. Obviously we coach, but we also help you do it or do it for you. Feel free to reach out. Like I said, Facebook, Instagram, tag me, tag Lindsay, whatever you need, come say, hey, if you're not getting the results that you want and you're like, I want someone that can absolutely get results, give us a ring. We'll hook you up. Talk soon. See ya. Hey, Cleaning Nation, if you dug the content you just got, we don't do any ads and I don't sell anything on this podcast, but if you would just subscribe, rate, and review, it would be huge and I'd be so appreciative. Not only is it going to help me, but you'll help other owners of cleaning companies across the world work less, make more, and get profitable. So if you appreciate the value we give, again, subscribe, rate, and review. It'd mean the world to me. I'd really appreciate it. And we sure appreciate your time and attention.